Dom and Tom from BlackToad Studios, and today we're something a little bit different. We're doing a doubles game in preparation for a tournament we're taking part in a couple of weeks. So myself and Tom, we're bringing Astra Militarum and Grey Knights against Tau and Eldar. So first off, let's go through the Guard and Grey Knight list. So, starting over here, we've got two squads of Guard veterans. Both have a plasma gun and a missile launcher. Then in the centre for our HQ, we've got a tank platoon here with a tank commander, which is this gentleman here. So on this leman russ exterminator, we have got two multi-melters and a las cannon. On this one over here, we've got two plasma cannons and a las cannon. And the warlord trait we've rolled for is old grudges, so very handy. And at the back here, we've got two sentinels with plasma cannons, armoured sentinels with plasma cannons. We've got two armoured sentinels, one with a multi-laser and one with a las cannon. And we've got two more armoured sentinels with missile launchers. And that is the guard element of this army. Moving over here, Tom, you've got Grey Knights. What do you want to? What have you got here?
So down the front here we've got a level 3 librarian.
Yep.
He's got the cuirass sacrifice, which gives him it will not die and feel no pain.
Yep.
And he'll be joined in a standard Terminator squad. So the sergeant has got a thunderhammer. Yep. Or demon thunderhammer, I should say. And then the rest of the three, we've got one side cannon with a sword. Yep. And then two halberds in there.
Very nice.
And then obviously two Dreadknights at the back here. Yep. One on the left here is armed exactly as you see him, so one heavy side cannon and the Gatling silencer. Yep. And then over here he's got the heavy side cannon and the heavy inferno flamer, and obviously the great sword. Very nice. And what about your warlord traits? Yeah, the warlord trait got Lawmaster, which gave you one additional power from the Santic discipline, which was hammer hand. And then
very handy.
And obviously with that we all get force for our weapons. And then I drew from divination, which is precognition, forewarning, foreboding, and prescience. Very nice, nice selection there. And there we go. So let's go over and see what the guys have brought for their Tau and Eldar list. So here we are. Here is the 1600 points of Tau and Eldar that Daryl and Andy are both bringing to the doubles. So, as I said, this is a trial game, and we're going to run through what they've brought. So over here, Andy, do you run through your Tau list here?
Yep. So HQ, I've got a Fireblade. Yep. At the front there, and two 5-man unit of Fire Warriors.
Yes.
I've got two individual crisis suits, one with two fusion blasters. Yep. And one with the single one there.
Yes. Okay.
And I've bought the Riptide wing formation.
And whereabouts is that formation from?
Yep. So this is from the Montecar book. So this is a formation that allows them to basically do a hailfire attack. So they're all shooting twice at least once per the game, and some other small abilities. So I've got two iron accelerators and a heavy burst cannon in there.
So iron accelerator,
heavy burst cannon.
And the heavy burst cannon. Very nice. Anything else on them?
They've also got early warning override, so they can insert.
Right, very nice. Okay, so that's the Tau portion of this army. Daryl, let's move over to your Eldar here. What have we got?
Okay, so we've got the Crimson Hunter here, and that's got the Exarch ability. We're using the Death from the Skies book in this, so the Exarch ability just counteracts the -1 on shooting ground targets.
Yep.
It's also armed with two Bright Lancers.
Yeah, so we're using Death from the Skies in this tournament that's coming up. But I think they're missing out on the dogfighting stage. So it's a bit new to all of us. We don't tend to use Death from the Skies because it's a little bit weird. Right, okay, sorry, so carry on.
Moving on, so we've got 6 Die Avengers mounted in a Wave Serpent here.
Yep.
And the Wave Serpent has a twin-link scatter laser turret and an underslung shuriken cannon.
Very nice.
Moving on, we have my HQ squad, which is a Farseer on a Skyrunner jet bike. Yep. With a singing spear.
Okay.
And then 3 jet bikes armed with shuriken cannons rather than scatter lasers or twin-link catapults.
Yes, nice. And what abilities has your Farseer got?
So he rolled over here, invisibility, shrouding, mental fortitude, and obviously he comes with psychic shriek on the
Very nice selection there.
He also rolled an eye on distant events for his warlord trait, allowing D3 units to scout, and I rolled a 5, so it allowed 3 units
everything to scout. On your army to scout.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Very nice. And over here?
My other Wave Serpent, which is transporting some fire dragons, and that one is armed with a twin link bright lance and again an underslung shuriken cannon.
Very nice. And just as we remember, Andy, what's your warlord trait for this army?
It's exemplar of the selfless cause. So if they go to ground,
Yep.
they can basically let me just double check. Actually, no longer considered going to ground and can move and shoot as charge as normal.
Oh, very nice. Right, okay. So let's have a look at the board and the mission. Right, so here we are. We are doing a bit of a mixed mission here. We've got deadlock objectives on the board, which are these round ones here. We've also got crusade, which will be the just the square ones that are there. So there's 4 crusade objectives. We've all placed 2. There's one underneath that leman russ, and there's one over there by that Riptide. So let's just run through the objectives. We've got number 1 over here. We've got number 5 down there. We've got number 2 there. Number 3 over here. Number 6 there, and of course number 4 will be sitting up here in this bastion. So at the moment the Tau and Eldar forces are going first. Let's run through the deployment very quickly. So up here we have the fire warriors up in the bastion. We've got the Riptide formation down here facing off against the armoured guard element over there. We've got the jet bikes here. We've got the fire dragons in this wave serpent here. We've got 5 more fire warriors and the Tau HQ down there. And we have got the Dire Avengers in this serpent here. So in reserve for Eldar, you have got your Eldar Flyer, correct? Mm-hmm. And we've got 2 crisis suits, 2 individual crisis suits for the Tau. Moving over here, we've got a Dreadknight hiding back here. We've got a guard element in this trench works here. We've got an armoured sentinel squadron there. We have another armoured sentinel squadron there. Another squad of guard. 1 more sentinel squadron. Pask and his buddy. And 1 more dreadnought. So in reserve we've got our squad of Terminators and the Librarian. At the moment it's not a night fighting, and Tau and Eldar going first, unless of course this cheeky little dice is going to help us steal the initiative. So here we go. Oh yes! So over to turn 1 for Grey Knight and Guard. Turn 1 for the Guard and Grey Knights, and we've got 6 objectives here. So let's have a look. We've got secure objective 3, secure objective 3, demolitions, secure objective 6, domination, and secure objective 5. So a nice selection there. We've got to try and score a few early on before our cards decline dramatically. So let's have a look to see where the Guard and Grey Knights have moved in their turn 1 movement. Right, so turn 1 movement for Grey Knight and Guard. We're just going to go through the Eldar scout moves first here. So this grav tank moved up behind this building and onto objective 3. And over here, this one's moved over here as well, so lining up a few shots down the field. That's pretty much it. So moving over to Guard and Grey Knights, this cheeky little Dreadknight has shunted up across the battlefield and currently lining up some horrible pain on those 2 units there. This Guard unit has stayed still. All these Sentinel squads here, they're all pushing up. We're lining up shots on that grav tank, try and pop that, or maybe lay down some fire on the fire warriors. So we'll see how that goes. This squad of veterans are pushing up to objective number 5 there. And over here, we've got the 2 Sentinels. Also, I've got lined up shots across the battlefield towards that grav tank, if need be. But we've also got shots over there, and we've got the Riptides there. And the 2 tanks here are both pushed up, and they've got lots of targets. It's a very target-rich environment at the moment for the Guard. And this Dreadknight has just hopped along a little bit. He hasn't used his shunt yet, but he's sitting on objective 1, and he's lining up some shots as well on the Riptides. So very nice. We're going to move on to psychic and shooting for turn 1 for the Imperial forces. So turn 1 psychic and shooting for the Imperial forces. Right, so psychic, not much happened. We got a force off on the other Dreadknight, which is across the battlefield. We'll go to him in a minute. So over here, this Dreadknight fired both its weapons into the fire warriors, killing off the Tau warlord and a lot of the fire warriors. Luckily though, this guy passed his morale check and he's still in the game. Over here, all the Sentinels, pretty much across the entire battlefield, fired over at this cheeky little grav tank. Got a few hits, got a couple of penetrated, but cover saves kind of saved it, so not much anything to report there. This veteran fired up hit this grab tank, took a whole point off, and we've shaken it. So that's kind of something, I suppose. Over here, these guys ran up in the movement phase and got that. And over here, these two tank squadrons fired everything they had into this guy, Andy, like a boss, passed most of his saves on a 2-up there. One plasma cannon shot did kind of scatter off and hit the one at the back, causing a wound to him. And the only damage he received was from this Dreadknight here, firing over. Unfortunately not with his force weapon, but he did do 1 wound on that Riptide there. So not great. We did slay the Warlord and we did get first blood there. And let's have a look what other objectives we achieved in turn 1. So at the end of turn 1 for the Imperial forces, we've got secure objective 5 where the guardsmen have charged up and held it. But we are discarding demolitions as of course there's nothing on the battlefield for us to destroy. So we're going to move on to turn 1 for the Xenos and see what they can do. We've got turn 1 for the Xeno, Eldar and Tau. And they've drawn secure objective 1, secure objective 6, domination, hungry for glory, secure objective 2, and secure objective 4. So a couple of very achievable ones, and a couple of ones that might struggle a little bit. So let's have a look to see what they have done in their movement phase. Right, so turn 1 movement for the Xeno, and Andy, looks like your Riptides are pushing, well, one Riptide's pushing forwards here. Towards the tanks or towards the Dreadknights? We will find out shortly. Over here, the jet bikes are skimming across towards the armoured sentinels, try to get them on the flank there. Very nice. This cheeky little chap is staying still, sitting happily on his objective 6 there. This wave serpent though is kind of fallen back a little bit, Daryl, to avoid the wrath of the knight over here. And finally, sort of fire warriors backing off a little bit, maybe lining up a decent shot, trying to get the pilot. I don't think it's going to happen, but we will find out. So we're going to move on to turn 1 psychic and shooting for the Xenos, and we will see what happens. So turn 1 psychic and shooting for Tau and Eldar. Right, so over here, the Eldar forces. See you there, cast 2 abilities. He casts invisibility on this first Riptide here, and he's got shrouding on himself and of course the surrounding units there, so very handy. In the shooting phase, oh, there we go, back in focus. This squad up here, this chap here, all fired shots into the Dreadknight there, stripping off 2 wounds with rending hits, and Dreadknight taking the rest of it a bit like a boss there, so he's still standing. Over here, oh sorry, another Riptide fired in as well, didn't he? So another Riptide, I think this rear one fired his ordnance shots in, and pretty much the same thing there, so he survived there. Over here, this Riptide fired straight into the Leman Russ squadron and took off 1 whole point from the front Leman Russ there. And that was it really. Over here though, the jet bikes fired over into the armoured sentinels, hitting them on the side and destroying both of them. So they've also got first blood. So in this mission you can of course achieve first blood for both sides. And finally I think over here, a lot of firepower. So Serpent Shield and the...
Not the Serpent Shield.
Not the Serpent Shield. Okay, so the Shrieking Catapult.
Scout laser.
Scout laser.
Shooting cannon.
Yeah, and a cannon, sorry. Both fired in and didn't do anything. Of course, this fire warrior wanted to fire in as well, and unfortunately wasn't able to wound him. So really, they did a bit of damage onto the sentinels, wiping them out, and knocked off half the wounds off that Dreadknight. So not too bad. I'm sure they were wanting a lot more, but never mind. There's going to be no assault, I don't think, in this turn. So we're going to move on to see what they've achieved at the end of turn 1. Turn 1 assault moves for the Eldar and Tau. Forgot about that. So basically Riptides here have kind of scattered off. This one's gone into cover over here. This one's falling back. And this one, because he's invisible, got some sort of weird kind of bravado, and he's now charging forwards. And the jet bikes kind of just shuffled around a bit, really, didn't they? So not
use a 2d6 turbo boost.
Yeah, so not a great deal. We're going to move on to the end of the turn now and see what the Eldar and Tau have scored. So at the end of turn 1 for Eldar and Tau, they've got secure objective 6, secure objective 4, and they are discarding Hungry for Glory. So not a bad start for the Eldar and Tau. Also they've got first strike. So we're going to move on to turn 2 for the Imperial forces. So turn 2 for the Imperial forces, and we have drawn secure objective 3, secure objective 3, secure objective 2, domination, and secure objective 6. So a couple of very achievable ones. We'll have a look to see where the Guard and Grey Knight forces have moved, and see if they can achieve anything. Turn 2 movement for the Imperial forces, and unfortunately Tom's Terminators came in and scattered onto Dreadknight and went into reserve, so not great. But this Dreadknight has now moved on to objective 3. Whee! That's quite handy there. Over here, this Guard Veteran Squad have moved on to objective 2. These Sentinels are moving around, probably lay some fire onto the bikes there. These guys are still kind of hanging on to objective 5, although we don't need it at the moment, it's still better to deny it. These Sentinels are moving up as well towards the jet bikes there, and the tanks are just kind of shuffled forwards here, probably going to lay some fire into that Riptide over there. And finally, this Dreadknight here, he's pushed up and he's going against the invisible Riptide there, so if he can finish him off before he dies. So that is turn 2 movement. Let's move on to psychic and shooting, see if we can kill some stuff. Turn 2, psychic and shooting for the Grey Knights and Imperial Guard. So over here, this Grey Knight tried to get off some psychic powers. Unfortunately though, he was quite poor at doing that, and didn't get anything off this turn. But we did do a few more wounds to this cheeky chap. Even though he's invisible, we did cause a bit of damage there with the Dreadknights. Moving across here, these two leman russes opened fire into the Riptide there, taking a couple more wounds off of him. They did get their order off, so they've now popped smoke as well. These two sentinels fired off into the jet bikes and didn't do anything, unfortunately. But the las gunfire, missile fire, and plasma fire also fired in. Didn't do anything, sad times. But the two plasma cannons here fired in and knocked out one of the jet bikes, causing a morale check, and of course they passed because they're Eldar. And over here, missile launcher fired up towards the grav tank and hit, but he didn't jink and it did nothing. So good choice there by the Eldar. Finally, this Dreadknight completed his mission and wiped out the remaining Fire Warrior there. So a fair bit of damage, nothing game changing really at the moment. We're going to go move on to Assault to see if the Guard and Grey Knights can do a bit more damage in combat. Turn to Assault for the Imperial forces, and the Dreadknight came crashing in to the Riptide. Riptide got a lot of Overwatch, but was unable to stop him. The Dreadknight came in, Hammer of Wrath, shoulder barged him, wounded, but luckily for the Riptide, he's saved. And the rest of the Dreadknight's attacks, because he's invisible, the Riptide, he was unable to do anything. And of course, Riptides aren't really made for combat, and was unfortunately not able to do anything back. So they're both locked in at the moment. Over here, both Sentinel squads declared charges. This one here, and this one down here declared charges onto the jet bikes, but both were unable to pass their charges. So very sad times there. We're going to move on now to see what the Imperial forces have scored at the end of their turn 2. The end of turn 2 for the Imperial forces, and we have scored objective 3 twice. We've also scored objective 2 with the Guard squad there securing it. We're going to discard domination because unfortunately it's not really achievable at the moment. And so that at the end of turn 2 for the Imperial forces, we are now on 6. So it's 6-3 to Imperial forces. All to play for still. Moving on to turn 2 for the Xenos. Turn 2 for Eldar and Tau, and they've got domination, secure objective 1, secure objective 2, witch hunter, and scour the skies. So a couple of very nice achievable ones, and a couple that are really going to struggle with. So let's have a look to see what they've done in their movement phase. So turn 2 movement for the Tau and Eldar forces here, and one of the crisis suits has deep strike in here and sitting on objective 1. One tried to deep strike over here, but unfortunately scattered off and got misplaced, so he's now currently sitting over here in the corner. Over here, the Riptide's still locked in combat. These two Riptides have pushed up again, very aggressive. The grav tank here has moved up and disembarked his fire dragons there, moving across the battlefield. We have got some jet bikes here, have come through the terrain, heading towards this veteran squad. I believe he's going to try and psychic shriek me. And really, the only other bit of movement over here, the Elder Flyer has flown on, vector danced, and he's lining up shots on the Dreadknights. And over here, the grav tank has moved up and disembarked the Avengers, who are also going to put some shots down onto this chap. So let's see what happens in psychic and shooting turn 2. So turn 2 psychic and shooting for the Eldar and Tau, and not a great deal unfortunately for them. Basically what happened, this Riptide here fired all its guns into the Sentinel squadron and completely wiped them out. The squad of fire dragons fired into the Leman russes and didn't do anything unfortunately. This Riptide, he fired in, hit with his main cannon, unfortunately wasn't able to penetrate, and this wave serpent here also fired in with the lancers and didn't do anything. This guy here fired into side armour of the Russ and was unable to, he missed, didn't he? Didn't even penetrate. No, he missed completely, so he didn't do anything. Over here, the Fasea got off Psychic Shriek and killed off 2 guardsmen, and the rest of the firepower from the remaining jet pikes fired into the veterans. The veterans went to ground and passed all their saves. Over here, this wave serpent fired down into the sentinels, killing off 1 more of the sentinel squadron. Not good, only 1 left. And finally over here, all this fired in to the Dreadknight and only took off 1 wound. So not great over here. I think Eldar were kind of really hoping this would be gone, but unfortunately not. We're going to now move on into turn 2 assault for the Xenos and see if they can cause some more damage to the Imperial forces. Turn 2 assault for Eldar and Tau, and basically what happened, this Dreadknight smashed the Riptide, which was no longer invisible, and killed him off. Over here, that Riptide and that Riptide have done their jump pack move, or jet pack move, whichever it is, and scattered off into probably better firing positions, to be honest. And over here, the jet bikes, moved into cover there. Unfortunately, the Fasea took another wound, so he's not very healthy, but they're in cover at the moment, which is very handy for them. We're going to move on now to the end of turn 2 to see what Eldar and Tau have scored. The end of turn 2 for Eldar and Tau. They have secured objective 1 with that crisis suit, and they are discarding Scout Disguise because of course we've got no flyers. So the score is now 6-4 to the Imperial forces. We're going to move on to turn 3 for the Imperial forces and see what they can do. Turn 3 for the Imperial forces, and we've got secure objective 1, secure objective 6, recon and secure objective 4. So some very nice ones we can try and get here, but we will see what happens. So moving on to movement, let's see what the Guard forces and the Grey Knight forces have done. Going over here in turn 3, this Leman Russ squadron here is kind of shuffled around. Hopefully we get a split fire order off so I can lay down some fire on this guy and also put some fire on those fire warriors there, but we will see what happens. Over there, the Dreadknight is pushing up then for his next victim, the next Riptide. Hopefully he can get in there and do some damage. The Terminators have come on, but they were intercepted, unfortunately, by a Riptide. So he's unable to do anything in his next turn, but we did suffer pretty heavy casualties over there. And really, the only other thing that's happened is this Dreadknight has jumped onto the landing pad. He's targeting this grav tank, and he's going to be flaming also the torrent into them. So hopefully that's going to be quite nasty. Right, so let's move on to turn 3, psychic and shooting for the Imperial force. turn 3 psychic and shooting for the Imperial forces. So over here, this tank squadron got off split fire. So this Leman Russ fired off into the fire dragons, knocking out 2 of those little cheeky monkeys. Over here, this one fired his multi-melters at the crisis suit and just obliterated him. He's completely disappeared. Over there, the Dreadknight got forced off and wiped out that Riptide. He's gone. This squad fired some shots into that Riptide, didn't do anything, unfortunately. The rest of the guard forces down here, so these 2 squads fired off shots into the jet bikes. This squad were of course snap firing as it went to ground previously, and squad firing normally. Unfortunately weren't able to do anything to them. They're cheeky little cover saves in there, and the sentinels were also fired into there and didn't do anything. Elsewhere on the battlefield, the Dreadknight here fired into the back and into these Dire Avengers as well, knocking out quite a few of that squad, leaving them of course on fire and doing a little bit of damage there onto the Wave Serpent. So mediocre damage, mediocre success. We're going to move on to Assault now to see if we can carry on our Xeno killing ability. Free assault for the Imperial forces, and the Dreadknight charged into the Wave Serpent and of course completely destroyed it. Had an explosion result. It did actually hit and wound the Dreadknight, but of course with its 2-up save it passed quite easily. So the only other thing we had was the Sentinel did an attempted charge and of course failed, but quite optimistic there. Never mind. Alright, we're going to move on to the end of turn 3 for the Imperial forces and see if we've scored anything. End of turn 3 for the Imperial forces. We have got secure objective 1 with the Leman Russes being able to just crawl onto it, and we are discarding recon. So I believe the score is now 7-4 to the Imperial forces. We're going to move on to Eldar and Tau and see if they can catch up at all. Right, so moving on to turn 3 for the Eldar and Tau, and they've got secure objective 6, they've still got Witch Hunter, secure objective 2 and domination. So a mixed bag. We will see what they've done in their movement in turn 3. Turn 3 movement for Eldar and Tau, and the flyer here is kind of shot over to lay down some firepower on there, as of course the Riptide intercepted last turn and can't shoot, so he's a little bit vulnerable this turn. The 2 Avengers are still standing there, probably worried what they're going to do about him. Over here, the Wave Serpents spun round to lay some firepower into the 1 wound Dreadknight. And really, the only other thing to say is over here, the jet bikes have moved through the terrain and landed there. I'm pretty sure Daryl took a dangerous terrain test because they started in cover. Maybe he didn't, so we'll roll now on
yeah, let's do that because brain forgot. So the first jet bike is okay, second jet bike, it needs a 3+ save.
Yep,
okay.
and the Fussier. Oh, he's okay. Right, there you go, some live rolling there. And the Fire Dragons here are pushed up with their battle focus to get nice and close to Leman Russes. So that is it for movement. We're going to move on to Psychic and Shooting and see what the Eldar and Tau forces can do. Turn 3 Psychic and Shooting for Eldar and Tau. Right, so these 2 Avengers fired into the Dreadknight, a bit optimistic but unable to do anything. This guy fired down into the Terminators but wasn't able to do anything with the Terminators. No, so it came down to the Fire Warriors up in this tower, came down and fired in and knocked out one of the Terminators. Well, of course this guy was still unable to do anything because he intercepted previously. And the Dreadknight's dead. The Dreadknight got taken out by the sneaky little crisis suit that Tom actually placed back here and forced his downfall and killed off the Dreadknight there. Over here, the Fire Warriors all fired in. 1 hit out of 3 of them, so not good. Fired into this Leman Russ and knocked out the multi-melter on the side there, so there we go. Over here, these jet bikes flew over and did a Psychic Shriek and Shrouding, knocking out 2 of the guardsmen there. And that was it. We're going to move on to Assault, and I believe the Fire Dragon's going to charge in with their Melter Bomb, and that might be it. So let's see what happens in turn 3 Assault Eldar and Tau. Turn 3 Assault for Eldar and Tau, and these jet bikes here flew into combat with the Leman Russ. Armor Bane on the spear, but unfortunately his hits were good, but his penetration not so good, and he fluffed him, unfortunately. As these guys battle focused, they weren't able to assault, which is probably good for me, but not so good for the Eldar. And that was pretty much it. This crisis suit kind of boosted forwards a little bit, didn't he, over there? But that is it. We're going to move on now to see what the Eldar and Tau scored at the end of their turn 3. Turn 3 for Eldar and Tau. At the end, we have got Witch Hunter. Well, they scored Witch Hunter, and they are discarding Domination. So the score is now 7-5 to Guard and Grey Knights. So we're going to move on to turn 4 and see what the Imperial forces can do. Right, turn 4 for Imperial forces, and we've got secure objective 4, we got secure objective 6, and we got secure objective 1. So a couple of relatively okay ones, and one that we're really going to struggle with. So let's move on to turn 4 movement for the Imperial forces and see what we got. Turn 4 movement, this sentinel's moved on to the objective, and he's lining up a shot onto these jet bikes here. The Grey Knights have turned round. I think we're going to try and get a prescience off and shoot down this little cheeky chap. This guy's lining up to take on the remaining Riptide. Over here, the tanks have kind of manoeuvred around. We're going to try and get another split fire off and take out both of these squads, but we won't fail. And finally, these veterans have shuffled across the barricades to lay down some supporting fire onto them as well. So that's our movement. Let's see if we can actually do anything in our shooting and psychic turn 4. Turn 4 psychic and shooting for the Imperial forces, and it's not gone well for Eldar and Tau, unfortunately. Right, so this guy got force off and destroyed the remaining Riptide there. Over here we got split fire off, and this guy fired into the jet bikes and completely annihilated the squad. This guy got off plasma cannons off the fire dragons and annihilated that squad. And pretty much it was that all over the board, unfortunately. So the Eldar and Tau team has conceded and have withdrawn from the battlefield. So it's an Imperial victory on this fine battlefield. Andy, do you have a model of the match for your Tau force?
Good question. I'd say one of the Riptides.
One of the Riptides.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did pretty well. Unfortunately, they did demise to the Dreadknights because they are pretty formidable, these bad boys. Daryl, do you have an Eldar model of the match?
Not really. They didn't do. I guess the jet bikes. They did the best.
Yeah, the jet bikes were actually quite intimidating with their psychic shriek, and they got all the way across the battlefield.
I think the rest of it, unfortunately, wasn't really up to scratch today.
No, the fire dragons unfortunately had a bit of fluffing along here, down here. They kind of fluffed all the way and then just got plasmid.
The fluffing was the name of the game for the
Fluffing is the name of the game for Eldar.
Yeah,
heard it here.
I know.
Tom, what about your Grey Knight force? It's got to be a Dreadknight.
I think I'm going to go with both of them on some level. However, the one that did die, I think, did the best on the grounds that he minced his way through several things on the battlefield and somehow managed to survive a double fusillade from a formation of the Riptides, which I think was incredibly lucky.
Yeah, no, that was really, really lucky. And for me, it's going to be my HQ squad. I mean, these Leman Russes were targeted a lot by Riptides, by crisis suits coming up behind them, by fire dragons here, by armor baning Faseers coming in, and somehow they both took one hull point, but the amount of damage they put across the enemy was pretty formidable. So I'm quite happy how they turned out. I hope you've all enjoyed watching this game. If you haven't already, please give us a little subscribe and like. And this is Dom and Tom from BlackToad Studios, and we'll see you soon.